Shwetal Shah was born and brought up in Mumbai and moved to UK almost a decade ago. Her journey has led to her working in the tech sector alongside launching several initiatives to improve the diversity within the tech and science industries. She also sits on several charity boards that are working towards improving social mobility, and she's joined me today. Welcome, Shwetal.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, it's so wonderful to see you. And I'm really looking forward to finding out what you've been up to. But let's get straight into the questions. Shwetal, you've been living in the UK for nearly a decade now. What made you decide to leave India and move to the UK?
So there were a few reasons. One of them was growing up in Mumbai. I was always surrounded by poverty, but never being in poverty myself. It really made me question my privileges. And to do something about it, I started teaching English to homeless children in Mumbai. And after having multiple conversations with those kids, I realized how talented they were. But in India, unfortunately, we don't have the infrastructure to support social mobility and to get young people into higher education. And so for me, I started asking myself deep questions around what could I do which is more effective and impactful, which can really help them get access to the education opportunities that I had. At that time, so I was 16 when I started doing this. I didn't really know what I was going to do, but then a friend of mine actually had moved to the UK, and he, out of the blue, messaged me, and he was telling me about his experiences in the UK, and he asked me if I had considered going abroad. At that point in time, I hadn't really given a thought to it, but then I was like, maybe this could be an opportunity to explore opportunities outside of India and see if I could have access to networks and financial resources, which could help me either set up a school in India or a scholarship fund. Now, this is me being extremely naive. I'd never been to the UK before. And at that time, the visa rules were quite strict as well. But something inside me, I don't know, it's like that gut feeling which told me that you should go to the UK and that's your answer to the questions that you're trying to answer and solve for in India. And so it was again like super naive, went through a lot of challenges over the last 9 years, got my citizenship last year, and was finally able to actually start sponsoring girls' education in India. So right now it's only 7 girls, but I hope to increase that year on year. And I hope that in the next maybe 5 or 10 years, I've at least funded 50 girls' education. And right now I just work with a school in India. So my dad was really helpful. He found the school, we contacted the principal, and during lockdown, a lot of the students that went to his school, their parents who did manual labor jobs had unfortunately been let go or lost their jobs. And so they stopped sending those girls to the school itself. And he sent me a list of the girls who stopped coming into school because their parents couldn't afford to pay the fees. And so I just got in touch. I was like, look, I can sponsor 7 girls. And then I gave the money directly to the school. They started contacting the parents, but unfortunately the parents were too scared to answer the phone as well. So they kept contacting them for multiple days and the parents never answered the phone. But ultimately they somehow managed to reach out to them and told them, look, you can start sending your girls to school now. We've managed to cover the fees. So that's been my journey, and I still mentor a lot of young people in India as well. But this in a nutshell, this is why I moved to the UK, and I hope that I can continue doing more of this.
That's amazing that you're doing that, and also to sort of recognize and realize that at such a young age as well, that, I'm privileged, I want to help other people, and now you're doing that. So that's brilliant, absolutely fantastic. In addition to that, and the goals to help other young people, you are absolutely passionate and mad about tech, aren't you? And on top of that, outside of your day job, you're grants committee member at Youth Futures Foundation, amongst other things. Tell us more about your passion for tech and a little bit more about that role.
So for me, again, the passion for tech, actually, I didn't have a tech background when I was studying in school. I was always interested in science, but never knew how to pursue that in terms of my higher education. And so when I first fell into tech in my first job, because I needed a visa to continue staying in the UK, I was really privileged again that a tech company in London, One Point Consulting, I reached out to them, they offered me an internship and they sponsored my visa. Again, I learned a lot in that organization, but I didn't come to that organization with a tech background. And over there, noticing that being the youngest and one of the only 2 women who worked in that organization, I started wondering what more I could do to improve this diversity imbalance that wasn't just in the company that I was working at, but across the industry. And so luckily at that time, in London, there were a lot of events happening, a lot of networks being created to also solve similar issues that I was thinking about. And so that was basically why I wanted to run these diversity initiatives. And then I actively went out, built networks, ran a lot of different sorts of initiatives. For example, I made a documentary on women in tech, but then I also used to organize free public science lectures where I invited women scientists to come and talk about their research, to, I guess, to share the research that they were doing and take that away from paywalled journals and make it more accessible to the public. So we spread more awareness of what's happening in science research right now, as opposed to what Marie Curie did, which a lot of people still study about in their history books in school. And so that was the aim. And then during COVID, I also partnered with a few charities and launched a mini grants initiative. So we give grants to young people to focus on science and tech. It's called STEAM. So science, tech, engineering, art, and math projects. And one of the best examples of that has been, there were 2 young refugee boys who applied for grant funding from us. And they are refugee boys from Afghanistan living in a refugee camp in Greece. They wanted to learn how to make websites so they could share more information with other refugees. And I matched them up again with mentors from One Point Consulting, where I was working, and we gave them funding as well. And one of them did extremely well, and he was offered a full-time job remotely at one point. And so, yeah, for me, I've always been passionate about, I guess, being the industry that I'm in and knowing how it improves social mobility, to then see how I can pass this on to other young people as well.
That's amazing, Shwetal, absolutely incredible. And I love that. It gave me goosebumps that you talking about that. And we've already talked about you sponsoring the girls in the school as well. And I think it's amazing that you're doing that. Obviously, you've won several awards for the amazing work that you're doing. What's been the most amazing award that you've received, and why is that?
I think it was all thanks to you when you nominated me for the Dalai Lama Compassionate Leadership Program, which was, I think, back in 2018 or 17.
So, yes.
Yeah, around that time. And yeah, again, I don't know like what you saw in me and like nominating me for that award, but it's been amazing. So it was started by Daniel Goleman and Tara Goleman. They are both New York Times bestselling authors on emotional intelligence, and Professor Richard Davison, who is a professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, works in their neuroscience department. But yeah, they started this initiative, and they brought together about 20 young people from across the world, or like just 20 social change makers from across the world. And over the last, we were meant to meet His Holiness in 2019, but then due to COVID, all of that had to get postponed. So we are actually meeting in October this year. All thanks to you. Over the last 3 years, we've been having regular catch-up calls with the group and really understanding what someone is doing from Afghanistan to solving issues in Lebanon and the US and UK. And yeah, it's been a great group and great leadership program where I've learned a lot from other people. And yeah, so I think that for me has been the best thing that's happened to me, but all thanks to you. So I'm really grateful.
I'm so glad to hear that, Shwetal. And of course, once you become a Global Youth Ambassador, we do get opportunities and we'll always put you forward for them if it's a good fit. And I thought that one would be a really great fit for you. So I'm really, really pleased that that's going really well for you. So, I mean, you're doing all of this amazing work. But what about the future? What are your personal and professional aspirations for the future?
Yeah, so I think for me, it again goes back to education accessibility and social mobility. And so for me, in terms of my future aspirations, I want to continue working in this space, social mobility space. So with the charity boards that I sit on, they're all aligned with a mission of making either tech more accessible or improving young people's lives in the UK. And then even with the new job that I actually just got, working at Multiverse, they want to improve social mobility for young people, providing them routes to non-traditional education and connecting them with employers as well. So I feel like everything that I set out to do about 10 years ago is all aligning now, coming together now with my day-to-day job, with my charity role, and also what I can do in my own capacity for young people in India. And so I think that's what my aspirations are, to continue working in this, to continue putting myself forward on these charity boards, making sure that charity boards are also represented by diverse voices, and working in tech for good.
Yeah, amazing and incredible that everything that you dreamt of 10 years ago is coming into fruition.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what the future holds for you, Shwetal, because you are like a rocket and I see you everywhere all the time. It's really, really brilliant. And so I guess just one final question for you. If you could change just one thing in the world, what would that be and why?
Yeah, so I think for me, it would be, I wish that more people would question their privileges and would try and give back. I mean, for a lot of people, they might think privilege means being extremely wealthy, having access to all of the networks and opportunities. Whilst that's true in its traditional definition, I think even just having the basic privilege of being on a charity board and making your voice be the difference that can create change in the community is a huge privilege as well. And so I wish people would recognize the skills that they have, the opportunities that we have in today's digital world, and they would use those privileges and their networks to give back to communities who unfortunately may not be as privileged. So I think that's one thing I would like to, I wouldn't say change, but I guess wake up to the whole world.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. What a wonderful thing everybody should be taking more of a look around at what's happening around them and seeing what they can do to help out. And it's so important. Reason why we've got so many young people for the Global Youth Awards as well, because actually there are a lot of people that are committed to doing that, and that's really important. Thanks so much, Shwetal. It's been really, really wonderful catching up with you. And I can't wait to see what happens next. We'll obviously share the links to what you're doing at the moment so people can have a look at it, and we'll catch up with you very soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tanith. I just love the work that you are doing along with Tiffany as well. It's been amazing, and every year when I attend the awards, I get super inspired as well. So, just congratulations to you. I know it's not easy to mobilize everyone and keep doing this, but the work you're doing is always inspiring. So, thank you so much.
Oh, brilliant! Thanks, Shwetal, and take care.
Thank you.